Coming live from the studio, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for watching another episode of All Sports. This is your host Gerardo, and all I talk is sports. On the show today, I am going to talk about the coronavirus and NFL football. Before I start the show, I hope you all had a great week. To start off with the coronavirus, the return of sports, we have started to see the return of sports here in the U.S. and in other countries around the world. Here in the U.S., we have seen sporting events return back. But we really haven't seen leagues return back. But now that we are in July, the NBA, NHL, and Major League Soccer will resume their season. And Major League Baseball will start their season. In August, September, and in the next few months, hopefully other leagues like the NFL, college football, and some of the other leagues can be able to start their season. But now that we are in July, it is a great time of year. Especially in the last few weeks, we have seen sports return back in other countries around the world. But we have now seen sports return back here in the U.S. in the last few weeks. It started off with different sporting events, but now that it is July, we are going to see leagues return back. Especially our major sports leagues here in the U.S. are going to make a comeback, and they're either going to start or resume their season. As a sports fan, and for all sports fans out there, we have had our calendar circled for the days sports would return back, no matter what sport it was and no matter where it was around the world. But as a sports fan, with sporting events and leagues returning back here in the U.S., especially with the leagues returning back now that we are in July, we have had this month and we've had certain days circled on the calendar for when leagues like the NBA, the NHL, Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, and even the NFL will be able to start or resume their season. So it's just a great time of year now, especially that we are in July. Sporting events have made a return back, but leagues are starting to make a comeback. And that's what we are all looking forward to as a sports fan. No matter what sporting event or league it is, it's just great to see that sports is returning back here in the U.S. and in other parts of the world. So if we take a look at the major sports leagues here in the U.S., with the NFL, they're hoping that training camp can start on time. But there is a possibility now that the preseason games have been taken down to 2 games that they will eliminate the preseason and it'll just be training camp all the way until the 2020 season's supposed to begin. We're going to have to wait and see if training camp and even the 2020 season starts on time. But as of right now, the NFL has plans for everything to start on time. But with this coronavirus pandemic, anything can change and nothing's a guarantee. With Major League Baseball, now that we are in July, Spring Training 2.0 has started in the last few days now that we are in July. And summer training is underway as all 30 teams are getting ready to play the 2020 baseball season, which will be a 60-game season that starts in the next few weeks towards the end of July. And it's just great to see that there will be a 2020 Major League Baseball season, even though it's going to be a short 60-game season. But it's just great to see that baseball will happen, because in the last few weeks it seemed like there would not be a 2020 baseball season, and we would have to wait until 2021. But as of right now, teams and players are getting ready for the 2020 season, and just like the NBA, there has been players in Major League Baseball that decided to opt out and not play in the 2020 season, and we're going to have to wait and see if there will be any more players that opt out on playing in the 2020 season. But in the next few weeks, the 2020 Major League Baseball season will begin, and I can't wait for baseball to begin. Taking a look at the NBA, all the teams that are contending for a playoff spot have made their way down to Orlando, and they're all in the bubble down there in Orlando in Disney World. And as of right now, there has been other players that have opted out on playing in the rest of the 2019-2020 season, and there has also been players that have been signed to a contract to replace those players on certain teams so they can play for a certain team for the rest of the 2019-2020 season. But as of right now that all the teams are down in Orlando, they are training and getting ready to resume the 2019-2020 season at the end of this month. We're going to have to wait and see if any more players opt out on playing in the rest of the 2019-2020 season. And if they do, we'll have to wait and see if there's any other players that get signed to a contract to play in the rest of this season for a certain team down in Orlando. But the NBA is glad that they're going to be able to make a comeback later this month and hopefully finish the 2019-2020 season. Taking a look at the NHL is opening up in different phases, and as of right now, the NHL is in the phase that all the teams are training and having training camp so they can resume the 2019-2020 season in the next few weeks. And all the teams that are contending for a playoff spot will play in the 2019-2020 season when it resumes sometime in the next few weeks. We will have to wait and see when the NHL announces when the 2019-2020 season will resume, and also what two cities are the NHL going to play in when this season resumes, and what two cities are they going to play in until the end of this season. We'll have to wait and see. But the NHL will make a comeback and start and hopefully finish the 2019-2020 season sometime in the next few weeks. Taking a look at Major League Soccer, all the teams have made their way down to Orlando to get into the bubble so they can resume the 2020 season and play in the MLS's back tournament. So it's great to see that Major League Soccer has also made a comeback, and there's teams going down to Orlando to play in the MLS's back tournament so they can finally, or hopefully, get in a 2020 Major League Soccer season. So as of right now, that is the status for all of the major sports leagues here in the US. And now that we are in July, all of these major sport leagues are going to make a comeback and either start or resume their season. And it's just great to see that all the leagues here in the US will be able to make a comeback and possibly have a 2020 season. And there's no doubt that no matter what league or sporting event it is here in the US or anywhere around the world, if they get to pull off a 2020 season, there's no doubt that this season, by the way it's going to be played and formatted, is going to look completely different compared to years from the past. But no matter how any league or sporting event has to play the 2020 season, it's just great to see sports has made a comeback, and sports will be able to happen, no matter if it's here in the US or anywhere else around the world. Moving on now to NFL football, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have agreed to a 10-year contract extension through the 2031 season. Patrick Mahomes is the first NFL player to have the biggest contract in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes' new contract passed Mike Trout's new contract in regards to value. Patrick Mahomes is the first $500 million player in sports history, and he now has the largest contract in sports history. So after the Chiefs had the type of season that they had in the 2019 season, and they landed up making it to Super Bowl 54, and they won Super Bowl 54, there was no doubt that at some point this offseason, or even after the 2020 season, the Chiefs were going to pay Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes was definitely going to have a huge payday sometime in the next few months. After the type of season the Chiefs had, and after he led the Chiefs to Super Bowl 54, and they won Super Bowl 54. And there's no doubt that the Chiefs know Patrick Mahomes is their quarterback and their franchise quarterback going into the next few years. After the way Patrick Mahomes has started off his career with the Chiefs, even after sitting out most of his rookie year. And after sitting out most of his rookie year, Patrick Mahomes has shown what he is capable of at the quarterback position, and he has shown what he is capable of at the quarterback position for the Chiefs. And the Chiefs believe in Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs know, even the rest of the NFL knows, what Patrick Mahomes is capable of. And there was no doubt that at some point Patrick Mahomes was going to have a huge payday because of what he has shown of what he is capable of. And there's no doubt he's going to keep showing what he is capable of this season and going into the future. And the Chiefs are going to have Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback for the next 12 years. So Patrick Mahomes will continue playing on his rookie contract for the next 2 years. And then after that contract expires, Patrick Mahomes will move on to his 10-year contract extension that is worth $500 million. And there's no doubt that after Patrick Mahomes has gotten this $500 million contract, with the way he has played and what he has shown what he is capable of, there's no doubt that Patrick Mahomes is worth a $500 million contract. And Patrick Mahomes is the first NFL player to sign this huge of a contract in NFL history. And if there's any player that is worth over $500 million, it would be Patrick Mahomes. Now, no matter how Patrick Mahomes' career plays out in the NFL or with the Chiefs, with the amount of money that Patrick Mahomes is going to earn with this new contract, in guaranteed money, he would make most of the money that he is expected to get paid from this contract. And even if Patrick Mahomes had a career-ending injury, the guaranteed money would still be a lot of money. But no matter if it's a career-ending injury or it's just the guaranteed money, even if he plays the next 12 years, he is still going to make a huge amount of money, especially with what is guaranteed. Whether he plays out the entire contract or even if he had a career-ending injury, he still will make a lot of money. Now, there's no doubt that Chiefs Kingdom and the Chiefs are looking forward to Patrick Mahomes being their quarterback and their franchise quarterback for the next few years going into the future. And Chiefs Kingdom is excited to have Patrick Mahomes for the next 12 years after how the Chiefs have played with Patrick Mahomes under center for the last few years, and after the Chiefs won Super Bowl 54 and ended their 50-year Super Bowl drought. There's no doubt that with the way Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have played since he has been the quarterback for the Chiefs, and after they have won Super Bowl 54, there's no doubt that the Chiefs are going to be a great team going into the next few years. There's a possibility that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will be the next Tom Brady and the Patriots for the next few years. And there's no doubt that the Chiefs are going to have many winning seasons. They're going to win many games. They're going to make it into the playoffs. But they're also going to have a few Super Bowl appearances. And there's no doubt that they're going to possibly win a few more Super Bowls. So we'll have to wait and see how Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs play for the next 12 years, since Patrick Mahomes will be under center for the Chiefs for almost the next decade. But there's no doubt that Chiefs Kingdom is excited to have Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback for the next decade. But also, Patrick Mahomes, even now, but especially going into the future, will likely be the face of the NFL or even the face of sports. With the way he plays and with everything he has shown, but also what he is capable of. There's no doubt that Patrick Mahomes has already shown what he is capable of, even though he has only played just a few seasons in the NFL. And he is in his prime right now, and he's still not even in his prime years yet, since he is just in the beginning of his NFL career. Now, after he has shown what he is capable of, I can only imagine what he is going to do in the next few years, especially in all of his prime years. So we'll have to wait and see how Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs play going into the future. But there's no doubt that Patrick Mahomes and even the Chiefs could be the face of the NFL going into the future. And especially Chiefs Kingdom is excited for Patrick Mahomes. But even the rest of the NFL wants to see what Patrick Mahomes is capable of, especially after what he has shown, what he is capable of. And as a Broncos fan, and the Chiefs being in the AFC West, for the next 12 years, it's going to suck to see the Chiefs in the same division, especially with Patrick Mahomes, because the Chiefs are definitely going to be competition to the Broncos since they are in the AFC West. But also, the Chiefs are going to be the team to beat in the AFC going into the future. It's going to be great to see the Broncos go against the Chiefs twice a year and see Drew Lock go against Patrick Mahomes. But hopefully, when the Broncos go against the Chiefs twice a year, we can at least win one of the games, no matter if it's here in Denver or in Kansas City. It would suck to see the Chiefs win both games every year, but hopefully the Broncos can beat the Chiefs at least once a year. And those Broncos-Chiefs games are definitely must-see games. They're definitely going to be great games and great matchups, but hopefully the Broncos can beat the Chiefs. And there's no doubt that no matter if it's the AFC West or the entire AFC, the Chiefs are going to be the team to beat. But Chiefs Kingdom And even the rest of the NFL is looking forward to what Patrick Mahomes brings to the table, and what Patrick Mahomes can do, and what he is capable of, and how he is going to lead the Chiefs this season and going into the future. And there's no doubt that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to be a great team now and going into the future, just like they've shown in the last few years. And there's no doubt we will see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have winning seasons, win a lot of games, make it into the playoffs, and they're definitely going to reach and win multiple Super Bowls. The Broncos announced their 2020 Ring of Fame electee is former head coach Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan is the Broncos' all-time winningest head coach with 146 victories. He coached the Broncos for 21 seasons, which is the most in franchise history. He won back-to-back Super Bowls, Super Bowl 32 and 33. For 14 seasons, he had a .626 winning percentage, and he joined Red Miller and Dan Reeves as the third head coach to be elected into the Broncos Ring of Fame. Mike Shanahan will be inducted into the Ring of Fame during the 2021 season due to the coronavirus pandemic that is happening in 2020. And the Broncos and the rest of the NFL don't know if fans will be allowed into the stadium if there is a 2020 season. Now the Broncos and the rest of the NFL are going to have to wait and see if fans will be allowed in to games during the 2020 season. And if fans are allowed in, it's very likely it's going to be a 50% capacity or even less. There's no doubt that if fans are allowed into stadiums for NFL games, there is a great possibility it's not going to be a full or sold out stadium. And the Broncos definitely want to honor Mike Shanahan in the right way. And when they do that, the Broncos don't want a stadium that's only half full or less than half full. They want a full, sold out stadium. So Mike Shanahan is the 2020 Ring of Fame electee that is getting inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame. He will have to wait until 2021 to get inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame. But for Mike Shanahan and the Broncos, it will definitely be worth the wait. And the Broncos definitely want to honor Mike Shanahan in the right way with all of their fans. Even though it's been a long wait for Mike Shanahan to get inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame, it was definitely worth the wait. And the Broncos should have inducted Mike Shanahan into the Ring of Fame a long time ago with the type of career that he had as a head coach for the Broncos. But it's just great to see that now the Broncos will honor Mike Shanahan and put him into the Broncos Ring of Fame where he belongs. Even though it was a long wait, it was definitely worth the wait. And with Red Miller and Dan Reeves already being in the Broncos Ring of Fame, there was no doubt that Mike Shanahan should be in the Broncos Ring of Fame, especially with the type of career that he had with the Broncos as a head coach, but also with Mike Shanahan being one of the best head coaches in Broncos history. So it's definitely going to be great to see Mike Shanahan get inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame during the 2021 season, and there was no doubt it was definitely worth the wait, and he is finally going to get inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame where he belongs. July 15th is the deadline for players to sign a new contract or to sign their franchise tender for this season and play under the franchise tag this season. So far, the Cowboys have received Dak Prescott's signed franchise tender for this season. The Titans have received Derrick Henry's signed franchise tender for this season. The Broncos have received Justin Simmons' signed franchise tender for this season. And the Buccaneers have received Shaq Barrett's signed franchise tender for this season. So all 32 NFL teams have a franchise tag that they can use on one individual player, and they can use it on a certain individual player during the off season. And when an NFL team places a franchise tag and they use their franchise tag on an individual player on their team, they have until July 15th to agree to a new multi-year contract or to sign the franchise tag. Now, most of the time, an individual player in a team can agree to a new multi-year contract by or on July 15th. But if a player in a team cannot agree to a new contract, then the individual player has to sign the franchise tender and play under the franchise tag for the season that is coming up, which is a 1-year contract. And then after the season ends, then that player is eligible to become a free agent or get signed to a new multi-year contract. Now, most of the time, teams and individual players can agree to a new multi-year contract, but there are many times that an individual player in a team cannot agree to a new multi-year contract, and that individual player will play under the franchise tag, which is a 1-year contract for the upcoming season. Now, most of the time, players that have to play under the franchise tag for the upcoming season, that NFL team wants them to play on that 1-year contract to see what they are capable of and how they play in the upcoming season. So in the next off season, since that individual player and team could not agree to a new multi-year contract the previous season, after that team examines how this individual player played under the franchise tag, they can determine if this individual player is worth paying a lot of money and getting a new multi-year contract. So most of the time when players and teams cannot agree to a new multi-year contract and they have to play under the franchise tag for the upcoming season, that individual player was a great player in the previous season or in the last few seasons. But this certain NFL team wants to see how this individual player plays in the upcoming season and what they are capable of, so they can determine if this individual player is worth paying a lot of money and if this individual player is worth a new multi-year contract. So most of the time, regardless if an individual player has to play under a franchise tag or even if they get a new multi-year contract, regardless of the situation for this individual player, playing under the franchise tag or getting a new multi-year contract can be a good or bad situation. And even if an individual player does not get a new multi-year contract, it's still great to see that a certain individual player plays under the franchise tag, because then the NFL team can determine, by the way this individual player played in the upcoming season, they get another season to determine if this player is worth keeping on their team, and especially if this player is worth paying a lot of money and getting a new multi-year contract. So regardless if the individual player gets a new multi-year contract or they have to play under the franchise tag, it can be a good or bad situation for that individual player or for that NFL team. But if that individual player has to play under the franchise tag and wait for a new multi-year contract, it can be a good or bad situation, or it could also be worth the wait. So with the July 15th deadline coming up in the next few days, we're going to have to wait and see if any more individual players have to sign their franchise tender and play under the franchise tag for this upcoming season. But as of right now, there has already been some individual players that have signed their franchise tender for this season, but they still have until July 15th, regardless if they have signed or not signed their franchise tender. They still have the next few days to be signed to a new multi-year contract. And if these individual players are already signed to their franchise tender for this season, they can still get a new multi-year contract. But if they do not get a new multi-year contract, by July 15th, they do have to sign their franchise tender for this season if they were placed on the franchise tag by an NFL team. So if we take a look at the NFL, a lot has happened in the last few weeks, and a lot's going to happen in the next few weeks, especially in regards to the 2020 season and when training camp will begin, if there will not be a 2020 preseason, and especially if the 2020 regular season will start on time, or is it going to be delayed? And the million-dollar question, will there be a 2020 NFL season, or is it going to be delayed or shortened? We're going to have to wait and see. But in the last few weeks, and even going into the next few weeks, an NFL team has been in the news because of everything that has been going on in the NFL and even in our everyday lives in regards to the coronavirus or in regards to other situations, regardless if it's here in the US or anywhere else around the world. But there has been a certain NFL team that has been in the news for the last few weeks, and they will continue being in the news for the next few weeks. And this team that has been in the news has been the Washington Redskins. And with everything that has been taking place in the last few weeks in regards to the coronavirus or with other situations here in the US, the Washington Redskins have been in the news because individuals want to see the Washington Redskins change their name and their logo. Now, in the last few days, the Washington Redskins have announced they will change their name and logo before the start of the 2020 season. Now, we're going to have to wait and see if the Washington Redskins do change their name and logo in the next few weeks or before the start of the 2020 season. But as of right now, in the last few days, the Washington Redskins are exploring all their options, and they have considered many different names to change the Washington Redskins to a new team name. So we'll have to wait and see if the Washington Redskins are going to change their team name and their logo in the next few weeks or before the start of the 2020 season, like they said in the last few days. But as of right now, the Washington Redskins are exploring all of their options, and there is a 50-50 chance and a very great chance that before the 2020 season begins, that the Washington Redskins will change their name and their logo And don't be surprised if Washington does change their name and logo sometime in the next few weeks. And if they do, we will have to wait and see what new name Washington's going to go by and what their logo is going to look like. Moving on now to the show, what to watch for: the return of sports here in the US and around the world. The return of the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and Major League Soccer now that we are in July. Moving on now, on the next show, I will talk about the coronavirus, Major League Baseball, and NBA basketball. I hope you all have a great week. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show next week. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to All Sports. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.